On this week's episode of Ride the Lightning, the unofficial Tesla podcast, Elon Musk drops a lot of interesting new information about Model Y, Model 3, the Minibus, and more by way of his TED Talk and the Q1 investor call. Stay tuned for the highlights. What's happening, friends? Welcome to Ride the Lightning. It is the unofficial Tesla Motors podcast, episode 92 for May 7th, 2017. I am Ryan McCaffrey, your host. I'm going to have a Maggie the Boxer update for you that I'm going to save until the very, very end of the show. There's a lot of Tesla stuff to talk about, and the Maggie stuff will be separate later. So, first of all, I did want to note, remind me never to put Semitruck in an episode title ever again. This last week's show, which I called something like Tesla Teases the Semitruck, was the lowest downloaded show in months. So I have to presume that's the reason why. I don't know of any other reason why that would be the case. I guess people really don't care about the Semitruck, but in any case, that's a risk. That's an experiment I'm not going to be willing to run again. Also, I could use some hotline calls. There are, fortunately, a few ended up coming in towards the end of the week this week, which is great. And in fact, it worked out such that there's so many Elon Musk clips. There's so much to get through this week from Elon's two big public appearances, his TED Talk and his hour and 20-minute long Q1 investor call after the Q1 Tesla results. I have got, literally it is 26 clips, I think all of which have Elon, are either Elon or have Elon in them. So there's a lot of interesting new things that because of course anytime Elon speaks, there's usually something interesting. There's so much to get to this week that I'm actually not going to do the Ride the Lightning hotline. I'm going to save it for next week. I do also have for you Patreon supporters at the $10 or higher tier, you've got your monthly bonus extra episode coming. If it's not this weekend, it'll be next weekend for sure. With all of the extra phone calls that pile up over the course of the month. But for now, I could use some new ones heading into next week. And obviously, with everything you're about to hear from Elon, there should be plenty to comment on. Or bring up questions about, discussion topics, etc. So do give me a call. The toll-free number, let's talk Tesla, the toll-free number is 1-888-989-8752. Or you can also email me your question in voice form. So then it's just as good as a phone call. Just record it on your smartphone, voice memo on iPhone or whatever file, whatever program you use, and just email me the recording. So you can do that as well. You can send that to teslapodcast@gmail.com. So I wanted to start with Elon's TED Talk with Chris Anderson, the founder of the TED Talk. And here in this first clip, here's Elon talking about Tesla's success.
I mean, you started Tesla of persuading the world that electrification was the future of cars.
Yeah.
And a few years ago, people were laughing at you. Now, not so much. I mean...
Okay.
Well, I mean, isn't it...
I don't know.
Maybe but isn't it true that pretty much every auto manufacturer has announced serious electrification plans for the short to medium term future?
Yeah. I think almost every automaker has some electric vehicle program. They vary in seriousness. Some are very serious about transitioning entirely to electric, and some are just dabbling in it. And some, amazingly, are still pursuing fuel cells, but I think that won't last much longer.
But isn't there a sense, though, Elon, where you could now just declare victory and say, we did it, let the world electrify, and you go on and focus on other stuff?
Yeah. I intend to stay with Tesla as far into the future as I can imagine. And there are a lot of exciting things that we have coming. We've got obviously the Model 3 that's coming soon. we'll be unveiling the Tesla Semitruck. And maybe,
okay, well, we're going to come to this. So Model 3. So it's supposed to be coming in July-ish.
Yeah, it's looking quite good for starting production in July. Yeah.
The interesting part of that clip to me was it seems like maybe, Elon's definition of success not necessarily the same as Chris Anderson's. Chris ready to say, "Hey, Tesla's you're successful, you did it," and Elon saying, "Oh, okay, maybe," because of course Tesla's goal is not to be a profitable company. I mean, that's a side effect, an excellent side effect, but the goal is to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable transport. And this next clip's about Autopilot, and I brought this up last week. In fact, and this is Elon just correcting me effectively from last week, straight from the horse's mouth. Elon Musk reaffirming that the cross-country level 5 autonomous test drive, the test run, still on for this year. Here's Elon.
One of the things that people are so excited about is the fact that it's got Autopilot. And you put out this video a while back showing what that technology looked like, or would look like.
Yeah.
There's obviously Autopilot in Model S right now.
Yeah.
What are we seeing here?
Yeah, so this is using only cameras and a GPS. So there's no LiDAR or radar being used here. This is just using passive optical, which is essentially what a person uses. The whole road system is meant to be navigated with passive optical or cameras. And so once you solve cameras or vision, then autonomy is solved. If you don't solve vision, it's not solved. So that's why our focus is so heavily on having a vision neural net that's very effective for road conditions.
Right. Many other people are going the LiDAR route. You want cameras plus radar is most of it.
You can absolutely be superhuman with just cameras. Like you could probably do 10 times better than humans with just cameras.
So the new cars being sold right now have eight cameras in them. That they can't yet do what that showed. When will they be able to?
I think we're still on track for being able to go cross-country from LA to New York by the end of the year, fully autonomous.
Okay, so a car, by the end of the year, you're saying someone's going to sit in a Tesla without touching the steering wheel, tap in New York, off it goes, won't have to ever touch the wheel by the end of 2017.
Yeah, essentially November or December of this year, we should be able to go all the way from a parking lot in California to a parking lot in New York, no controls touched at any point during the entire journey.
And amazing. But part of that is possible because you've already got a fleet of Teslas driving all these roads. You're accumulating a huge amount of data of that national road system.
Yes, but the thing that will be interesting is that I'm actually fairly confident it will be able to do that route even if you change the route dynamically. So like it's fairly easy. If you say I'm going to be really good at one specific route, that's one thing. But it should be able to go really be very good. Certainly, once you enter a highway, to go anywhere on the highway system in a given country. So it's not sort of limited to LA, New York. We could change it and make it Seattle, Florida, that day, or in real time. So you were going from LA to New York, now go from LA to Toronto.
I'd love to see it. I mean, like I said, that will make news everywhere. I mean, there is not a single outlet of any sort that's whether they focus on tech, cars, general news. That will be news everywhere when it happens. And it'll be whether it's successful or not. It'll be news, especially if it's successful. It'll be news everywhere. And I suspect when it does happen, Tesla's going to put together. They're going to release like a highly edited, polished video of of the whole thing. That'll be really, really cool to watch. In fact, I hope they're doing it kind of like documentary style. It'd be really fascinating to see that. We know they're running around Palo Alto. We've seen some of those, a couple of those test videos that Tesla's released on their own, but that is going to be really, really cool. And maybe that is going to happen in November or December of this year, according to Elon Musk. Now, the topic of autopilot and autonomous driving fascinated Chris Anderson. And so he dug into the topic with Elon further here. Elon gives an update on when we might be able to see level 5. And Chris Anderson asking, well, when can we just get in the car and fall asleep? So here's Elon Musk elaborating on that.
So leaving aside regulation for a second, in terms of the technology alone, the time when someone will be able to buy one of your cars and literally just take their hands off the wheel and go to sleep and wake up and find that they've arrived, how far away is that to do that safely?
I think that's about 2 years. So the real trick of it is not, how do you make it work, say, 99.9% of the time? Because if a car crashes, say, 1 in 1,000 times, then you're probably still not going to be comfortable falling asleep. That's, you shouldn't be, certainly. But by the same time, it's never going to be perfect. No system is going to be perfect. But if you say it's perhaps, the car is unlikely to crash in 100 lifetimes or 1,000 lifetimes, then people are like, okay, wow. If I would live 1,000 lives, I would still most likely never experience a crash. Then that's probably okay.
To sleep. Maybe, I guess the big concern of yours is that people may actually get seduced too early to think that this is safe, and that you'll have some horrible incident happen that puts things back.
Well, I think that the autonomy system is likely to at least mitigate the crash, except in rare circumstances. The thing to appreciate about vehicle safety is this is probabilistic. Right. So that there's some chance that any time a human driver gets in the car that they will have an accident. That is their fault. It's never zero. And so the key threshold for autonomy is how much better does autonomy need to be than a person before you can rely on it.
But once you get that literally safe hands-off driving, the power to disrupt the whole industry seems massive, because at that point you've spoken of people being able to buy a car, drops you off at work, and then you let it go and provide a sort of Uber-like service to other people, earn you money, maybe even cover the cost of your lease of that car.
Exactly.
So you can kind of get a car for free. Is that really likely?
Yeah, absolutely. This is what will happen. So there will be a shared autonomy fleet where you buy your car and you can choose to use that car exclusively. You could choose to have it be used only by friends and family, only by 5-star other drivers who are rated 5-star. You can choose to share it sometimes, but not other times. That's 100% what will occur. It's just a question of when.
Listen to Elon, very, very confident in the Tesla network there, saying that's 100% what will occur. It's just a question of when. I have said before that I'm way too anal about my cars to ever let some random stranger in it, because I just don't know if they are wearing some weird article of clothing that might scratch a seat. That would make me mad. If they're a smoker and my car might smell like cigarettes, which is no disrespect to anybody out there that's a smoker, but that is an undesirable thing to me in my car. I don't know, if there's somebody that's drunk and is going to get it and throw up in my car. It's who knows. So I'm just way too anal. I am not laid back enough, I admit it, to allow a random stranger to use use my Tesla, even when they're not driving. If they're just in the back seat and the car is driving itself, I just don't even want any strangers in my car, even for money, even with the car making me money. But I'll tell you, I would absolutely use it. I would let friends and family get in it and have the car drive them around. I would 100% do that. So I think I'll dip my toe in and go from there when the time comes with the Tesla network. Next, here, You're going to hear more about the Semitruck, although I guess I probably, again, from the top of the show, I probably shouldn't put anything about the Semitruck in this podcast, judging from the number of downloads on last week's show. But here is Elon discussing the Semitruck a bit, because this is where he revealed the teaser image, was during this TED Talk. It came up on the screen, and here he is talking about it to Chris Anderson.
Yeah. Because just, we can't see that much of it, but it doesn't look like just a little friendly neighborhood truck. It looks kind of badass. What sort of semi is this?
So this is a heavy-duty, long-range semi-truck. So it's like the highest weight capability and with long range. So essentially, it's meant to alleviate the heavy-duty trucking loads. And this is something which people do not today think is possible, because think the truck doesn't have enough power or it doesn't have enough range. And then with the Tesla Semi, we want to show that an electric truck actually can out-torque any diesel semi. And if you had a tug-of-war competition, like the Tesla Semi will tug the diesel Semi uphill.
That's pretty cool. And short term, these aren't driverless. These are going to be trucks that truck drivers want to drive.
Yes. So what'll be really fun about this is you have a flat torque RPM curve with an electric motor, whereas with a diesel motor or any kind of internal combustion engine car, you've got a torque RPM curve that looks like a hill. So this will be a very spry truck. You could drive this around like a sports car. There's no gears. It's like single speed.
And then here's Elon describing driving the Semi. I went over these quotes last week. These are just the actual Elon Musk words, but it's interesting to hear sort of there's kind of a giddiness in his voice when you hear him talk about driving the prototype Tesla Semitruck around the parking lot. Check this out.
It's quite bizarre test driving when I was driving the test prototype for this truck. It's really weird because you're driving around and you're so nimble, and you're in this giant truck.
Wait, you've already driven a prototype?
I drove it around the parking lot. I was like, this is crazy.
Wow. This is not vaporware.
This is like wow. Driving this giant truck and sort of making these mad maneuvers.
And finally, from the TED Talk, here is Elon speaking about the need for more Giga Factories and announcing, well, here he is saying what they might announce before the year is out in the Giga Factory department.
But, I mean, one of your core ideas, Elon, about what makes an exciting future is a future where we no longer feel guilty about energy. Help us picture this. I mean, how many gigafactories, if you like, does it take to get us there?
It's about 100, roughly. It's not 10, it's not 1,000, most likely 100.
See, I kind of find this amazing. Like, you can actually picture, if that's right, you can picture what it would take to move the world off this vast fossil fuel thing. It's like, you're building one, cost $5 billion, maybe the next one, or whatever, $5 to $10 billion. Yeah. Like, it's kind of cool that you can picture that project. And you're planning to do a Tesla, or at least announce another two this year.
I think we'll announce locations for somewhere between 2 and 4 gigafactories later this year. Yeah, probably 4.
Whoa. Yeah. Okay. I can't tease. No more teasing from you for here. Like, where? Continent? You can say no.
We need to address a global market.
Well, my guess here as to what Gigafactory locations will get announced next, I suspect China will be one of them. Elon was just in China in the last week or so. I can't imagine that was just a vacation. No, he was meeting with business leaders. He was meeting with a lot of people. So I've got to figure, and Tesla, that is just the largest potential market for Tesla to tap into that they're not already in. I mean, they're trying to dip their toe in the water in China, but if they can get exemption from the taxes if they can set up shop over there, they can sell their cars at a much more affordable rate, or at least build them for it and thus sell them for it, and it's a much more viable operation. So I think China will be one of them. I think Western Europe is the other obvious choice. I thought about Japan, but I don't know. I think Japan is probably doubtful only because they have such a good relationship with Panasonic. And I know, hey, things can change, relationships can change, but even on the, this is actually a clip I'm not going to play you, but during the investor call that we're going to get to here in a minute, Elon went out of his way to praise Panasonic and what a wonderful partner they've been. So I don't think there's going to be a Gigafactory in Japan. Plus, I guess, Japan's a very geographically small country that's very dense. They'd have a tough time even finding a location for a Gigafactory. So anyway, I doubt Japan, but I'm going China and Western Europe are going to be two of them. That's my guess. All right, let's move on to the Q1 results. This was the investor call. So, of course, every time there are results, there's a call and there's a shareholder letter that goes out. So just wanted to read you a couple of excerpts from the Q1 shareholder letter. Quote, preparations at our production facilities are on track to support the ramp of Model 3 production to 5,000 vehicles per week at some point in 2017. This is echoing what Tesla said before. And to 10,000 vehicles per week at some point in 2018. So again, that could be the week of December 26th. That could be the last week of the year. We recently powered on our newest Schuler press line and have started the commissioning process. This will allow sufficient time to install and tune die sets ahead of volume production. Paint shop preparation has been completed, and installations of our dedicated Model 3 body welding and general assembly lines are progressing well. Equipment installation is also underway for volume manufacturing of cells, modules, battery packs, and drive units at Gigafactory 1. Elsewhere in the shareholder letter, this year we plan to add nearly 100 retail, delivery, and service locations globally, representing an approximately 30% increase in facilities. These additions include the Q1 openings of our first stores in Dubai and South Korea. To significantly improve the customer experience with out-of-warranty body repairs, we intend to open the first Tesla-owned body repair shops later this year and expand the existing network of third-party Tesla-certified body shops. So that is interesting news. We had not heard that before. The Tesla's going to open up their own wholly owned and operated body repair shops. Now, I would count on the San Francisco Bay Area and LA probably being first in line for this. So we've talked a lot in past shows, taken calls. LA, the Bay Area, the LA area, a lot of problems with backup. People just waiting for weeks and months for service. Our friend Michael from Millbrae has called in about his hood, and he finally just got things going after John McNeil took to the TMC forums and said, "Hey, we're gonna triple our number of shops here. We're gonna get this going." And in fact, true to his word, Michael from Millbrae got himself sorted out after that. So that was great to see. And now, this is going to be really interesting. So you can actually it's funny how at one point we looked. I feel like, I don't know, I hope I'm not getting, I don't think you'd consider this political, but right, is it fair to say that at one point we looked at vertical integration in this country as a bad thing, as like, oh no, that's, we need to sort of, diversify everything, and vertical integration is bad. We don't want one company controlling everything. But with Tesla has just vertically integrated everything, and it's made for better products and better consumer experiences, I think, in a lot of cases. I think that's fair to say. So it's the more Tesla vertically integrates, the better things seem to get for Tesla fans and owners and customers. So I don't know, maybe I'm crazy there, but that's it's nevertheless, it's interesting to see Tesla's now going to open their own body shops. So that is good news for all current and future Tesla owners. Another chunk of the shareholder letter, they continue here saying, our new facilities are generally larger than they were in the past. For example, new service locations commonly have many more service bays, and we have tested the implementation of large delivery hubs in LA, San Francisco, Hong Kong, and Beijing. Delivery hubs create an exciting reception for new customers and support much higher delivery levels, so we plan to expand this customer experience to more cities. This was also news to me. I have not seen any of this in the Bay Area. So I'm wondering, for anybody, do I have any Bay Area listeners who may have bought a car recently or just been to Fremont? It's like, is that what they're doing in Fremont now at the factory? Is it sort of like the big delivery hub outside there, or even potentially inside, since there's still so much empty space in that plant? I think this is fascinating, and it really, I mean, it's clearly in preparation for Model 3 and the huge surge in volume that the company intends to have. So hopefully that's going to be a good thing. Tesla says it is. I hope you still get a nice, fun, personal delivery experience, and not just like a quick and dirty, like, okay, here, sign this and bye. I hope it's not like that. I hope there's still some element of you get a nice walkthrough, you get a personal touch from a delivery specialist. I wonder how they're going to strike that balance. Finally, from the shareholder letter, moving past Q2, particularly as Model 3 becomes available, one of our challenges will be to eliminate, as I accidentally scrolled up on the page, one of our challenges will be to eliminate any misperception about the differences between Model S and Model 3. We have seen a belief among some that Model 3 is the newest and more advanced generation of Model S. This is not correct. Model S will always have more range, more acceleration, more power, more passenger cargo room, more displays, parentheses 2, meaning no more HUD. No, the HUD dream is dead, folks, if you hadn't already given up on it. And more customization choices. And Model S, X, and 3 will all have equivalent Autopilot functionality. So they're granting that, like, okay, well, that's going to stay this. That's going to be uniform. We will continue to clearly communicate these distinctions to avoid any misperceptions. You're going to hear this again. This seems to be... I think Tesla is very, very worried. And I don't mean that in some like paranoid, the company's going down kind of way. I think Tesla is worried about Model 3 having a negative effect on Model S sales, at least in the short term. In fact, we're going to hear Elon speak directly to that here in a few minutes. So that is the shareholder letter. That was the TED Talk. I'm going to take a quick break here for a word from our friends, our sponsor, and then come back with all there are 20 clips. We got all the highlights in bite-sized, easily digested form, distilled for you from Elon Musk on the Q1 conference call right after this.
If you're like me and have a Tesla reservation, you'd probably love the chance to drive one around for more than just the short test drive that you can get from Tesla. Well, I've got a solution for you. Friend of the show, Joe Edgel, actually rents out Model S and Model X Teslas for as long as you'd like. If you happen to be taking a trip to Washington, D.C. or the Baltimore area, or if you want to drive one so badly you're willing to make a special trip, check out Joe's website, emotion.rentals. If you want, Joe will even deliver the car to you at the airport or your hotel. That's emotion.rentals. Now back to the show.
All right, as I said, the show, we've got so much show this week, so much Elon Musk, so many great clips that we're not doing the Ride the Lightning hotline, but do keep your calls coming. Again, the toll-free number is 1-888-989-8752, or record a question on your smartphone and just email it to me at teslapodcast@gmail.com. So now we go to the Q1 investor call where we hear from Elon, JB Straubel, Deepak, John, the foursome you're going to hear from, mostly Elon Musk, but some of the other executives as well. So on this first clip, here's Elon on the viability of electric vehicles in heavy industry, sort of talking about the Semitruck. Elon Musk, take it away.
I'm absolutely confident that that electric vehicles will occupy every segment without exception. And I don't want to jump the gun on the Tesla Semitruck unveiling later this year, but it's I think it's going to be an incredible product, and will defy people's expectations on what an electric truck can do. So I really do not see any segment of transport that will not be electric. In fact, I'm highly confident that all transport will go fully electric, with the ironic exception of rockets.
First of all, I love that Elon notes the ironic exception of rockets. That is pretty funny. But I'll tell you, if I had been on this call and they'd actually been able to go to me, which hasn't happened yet, I'll one day, but I would love to ask Elon how long he thinks it will take for that to happen. Odds are you'd probably get a typically optimistic Elon answer, and believe me, honestly, I love Elon's optimistic outlook on the world. I want to make that explicitly clear, but I'd love to know when he thinks the tipping point will be where the majority of vehicles in use in our society are electric. I hope I'm around to see it. I hope it's that quick. It's that a small number of decades and not many decades. In the next clip here, Elon Musk referring to Model 3 trim packages and the average sales price. This was an investor call. And sometimes you get dumb questions on the investor calls, but usually they are financially oriented questions from investors who are asking questions that are regarding, they're using to evaluate the future sort of profitability and the capital spending of the company. So here's Elon talking about what sort of the average sales price will look like with the sort of average trim packages factored in.
I mean, it's really guesswork at this point. But if it were to be comparable to what we see with, say, Model S, or with what other vehicles in the market experience, it's something like a 20 to 30% increment over the base price would be the typical average. John, do you have any?
Yeah, I think that's right, and that's we experience a little bit higher than that in Model S, and Model S in comparison to Model 3 has more range, has more power, has more cargo, etc. And we'll be introducing it to start of production. I think we'll be announcing our vehicle as we get closer to the start of production. What those vehicle specs will be, but I think 20% is a fair number to use.
Yeah, and actually, just to reemphasize that, I might repeat that a few times on the call. We want to be super clear that Model 3 is not version 3 of our car. The Model 3 is essentially a smaller, more affordable version of the Model S with fewer features. But the Model S and the Model 3 will be at the same level of technology. And if you were to put a version on, say, I would say we're probably on version 4 of Model S, and Model 3 will also be version 4. If you think of like essentially the first, when Model S first came out, just rear-wheel drive, and then we had dual motor, all-wheel drive. We had initial hardware 1 Autopilot, and then hardware 2 Autopilot, and there was a facial refresh. There've been roughly 4 versions of Model S, and we're on the 4th version. Model 3 will be also version 4. It's a little confusing because One's a letter and the other is a number. But Model 3 was supposed to be called the Model E. But then Ford turned to sue us, and then I thought we were being all clever by calling it the Model 3, but actually the joke's on me because it caused confusion in the marketplace. So that we're doing our best to clear up that confusion so that people do not think that Model 3 is somehow superior to Model S. Actually, Model S will be better than Model 3, as it should be, because it's a more expensive car.
Okay, good. Yes, very clear. Thanks very much.
We're going to be a bit of a broken record on this front, and the messaging might get a little annoying, but we really have to be emphatic to clear up an error for which I take full responsibility in naming something that inherently would cause confusion in the marketplace.
So you got the answer of they're expecting the average sale price being about 20 to 30% over the base price of the car. But then you heard the long rant about how the S is better than the 3 and the whole story of how he regrets calling it the 3, how it was originally Model E. This is the second time we've heard Elon talk about this on this week's show, because he said it in the TED Talk too, he said it in the it was in the shareholder letter. Expect to hear a lot more of this in the coming weeks and months. They said so as much on the call. They were like, we're gonna continue to harp on this. They're really trying to get out in front of it, and I don't blame them. And again, if I wish I'd gotten the chance, I would love to ask Elon if he wished in hindsight that he'd fought Ford for the Model E name. I know at the time, because this was 2-3 years ago, back at that time, Tesla was in nowhere near as strong of a position as they were now. The success was by no means certain or assured or even likely back then. It was like the S was a hit, but it was like, well, we'll see what happens next. Things are very different with Tesla now. But I would love to ask Elon if he wishes he'd have fought harder for Model E or just chosen another letter altogether instead of the number. But Model 3 it is, and we're going to be hearing Tesla talk about how that means it's not better than the S. We're going to hear that story quite a lot in the coming weeks and months. Our next clip here, you get Deepak, John McNeil, and Elon discussing the very interesting upgrade to the service loaner fleet. So if you are an existing Tesla owner, here's some good news for you.
Yeah, Deepak, a couple of questions that you had. Firstly, just to clarify, our finished vehicle inventory only increased very slightly from end of Q4 to end of Q1. And we are using some of that in different ways, and John can explain that further. And also to your other question on customer deposits, what I'm seeing is that we had an artificial backlog in our customer deposits of Model X's, and as our production of Model X's is stabilized and as our mix of Model X's increased relative to S, we have cleared that. So it's nothing unusual from what I'm seeing there. And John, you want to add on the...
That's right. The increase in inventory is about split in two. One is we increased Model X test drive vehicles by about 1,000 over the past quarter. We had prioritized deliveries as we ramped up Model X production and prioritized getting cars to customers first, into our stores second. Our stores have finally gotten their test drive fleets, and that's what you see in terms of the half of the unit volume increase. The second half is in our service loaners. So as our installed fleet has gone up, we wanted to make sure that our owners were getting a service loaner, so we will continually increase that, and you'll see that over time. That's not a one-time event. You'll see as we continue to deliver this level of cars per quarter, that we will increase the service loaner fleet proportionally so that we've got the ability to offer a Tesla to our customers.
Yeah, and in fact, this will take us a few months to fully deploy, but our policy for service loaners is that the service loaner fleet will be the very best version of a Tesla that is available. So if you have a Model X that comes in for service, the service loaner you will get will be the absolute fully loaded, state-of-the-art P100D ludicrous best Model X that we have. The same for the Model S. So it'll be kind of thing where you hope the service takes a long time because you have the absolute top-of-the-line Tesla as a service loaner.
They did this back. This has been the policy for a while. Previously they'd said, oh yeah, it's going to be the top of the line car. Like when the P85D first hit, there were P85D service loaner cars, and it's just a great way. It's not only will it help you sell cars because your existing owners might be tempted to upgrade, but if let's say you're driving a Model S 60 and you get now a P100D loaner, maybe you can't afford a P100D yourself, or you're not gonna make that upgrade yourself. But what you're going to do, almost certainly, if you have a P100D ludicrous loaner car, you're going to give all your friends and family rides in that car, and you're going to be doing launches, and you're going to be having fun. And what that's going to do, that's marketing. That's free marketing for Tesla. You're going to give your coworkers rides. That's going to be a thing that you show to everyone, and everyone's going to walk away from it smiling, if not perhaps nauseous from the launch. But that spreads the word. I mean, that's what the people, and that's what'll get those, like that coworker that you show the car to is going to then be like, man, I'm going to look more into these Tesla. Hey, Model 3, wait. Ooh, that starts at 35. I mean, it's brilliant. It's a great move on Tesla's part. And again, it's not new, but the fact that they're sort of doubling down on it, reinforcing it with the P100Ds, I think, is fantastic. Here is Elon saying, I referenced this earlier in the show, this is Elon saying that they did, in fact, see orders on Model S go down a little bit because of confusion over the Model 3.
No, we have seen some impact of Model S orders as a function of people being confused that Model 3 is the upgrade to Model S. Now, we took action to correct that about a month ago, but that message has not filtered down to all of our customers. So there's a lot of people who are under the impression that Model 3 is the upgrade from Model S, but in fact, if they want to upgrade, they should just buy the latest Model S. That's the actual upgrade path, not it'd be like thinking that the upgrade path from an Audi A6 is an Audi A4. It's not. So it's just a question of correcting that misperception. Which I'm confident we'll be able to do in the next several weeks.
I mean, I don't really have anything to add to that other than I think it's great to hear Elon just be honest and say it. I don't think a lot of executives would admit something like that because it would make them look, potentially weak or wrong. Or, I mean, yeah, I tip of the hat to Elon for just being honest about that. All right, in this clip, Elon gives an update on the Model 3 production line. We got a little bit of this in the shareholder letter, but listen to what he says about comparing the Model 3 production line to every other automotive production line on the planet.
Yeah, so with Model 3, I think will be roughly comparable with the best high-volume vehicle production lines in the world. better in some respects, a little worse in others, but roughly comparable. And then with some further iteration, I think it will probably be a little bit better than the next best automotive production line. Then where things will really be a step change, I think beyond any other auto manufacturer, will be the Model Y factory. And this is both a function of designing the product to be easy to manufacture and easy to automate, as well as designing the factory itself. So Model Y is, I think, where it really becomes a step change. But Model 3 is going to be at or probably maybe slightly better than, I think, the next best automotive factory, which is, I think that's a pretty good outcome. And then Model Y there'll be nothing close to it, I think. Yeah.
Got it.
Maybe just to add as a relative benchmark, against the S and the X, Model 3 is vastly more automated, and perhaps that's not the best benchmark to use looking forward, but it's perhaps 3 to 4 times more automated than an S or an X, and much simpler to build.
Is that 1/5 of the hours per car?
Yep.
So it's 5 times the volume, but the same hours per car.
Now you hear out of nowhere, he brings Model Y into the equation, saying that Model Y is going to blow the Model 3 away from a manufacturing perspective. He says Model Y will be the step change, and that Model 3 manufacturing, compared to S and X, it's 5 times the number of cars for the same amount of hours put in per car. That's incredible. Now, what this tells me, there could be such a drastic difference between the Y and the 3. That tells me that the meat of the design work on the Y probably started well after the 3. They may have had ideas, they may have had sketches, but if the Y is going to be that much more efficient to produce, it's because it's been drawn up that way. It has to be. So I've got to figure that the Model Y wasn't really kicked into full swing on the design side until Elon's big whole machine that makes the machine epiphany that we saw from him shortly after the Model 3 unveil a little over a year ago, back when, pre-orders, of course, you all know the story, you're all part of the story, when pre-orders just exploded past even Tesla and Elon's wildest expectations, and it made Elon Musk rethink the whole idea of production and manufacturing. So I really think, Model Y I think the serious work, the real design work on that car clearly has only started in the last year. Now, as for when that car is coming, stay tuned. Elon does speak to that. But first, here's Elon on the challenges of starting up production on Model 3.
So, the trick with when you've got a whole new product and a whole new factory is trying to predict exactly what that initial initial portion of the S curve looks like is extremely difficult. Inevitably, the production starts off slowly, and then you gradually eliminate the constraints, and eventually it starts taking off exponentially. But because of that sort of initial slow ramp that then grows exponentially, a small change in where that lands in a quarter can have quite a big impact on total volume. It's a lot easier to predict where the upper flat portion of the S curve is likely to be, but predicting the rapidly changing portions of the S curve is just, I think, not within the ability of anyone to predict with accuracy.
In other words, no promises, people. That's pretty much what Elon is saying, which is, again, honest and accurate. And that's one reason that I really respect and even admire Elon Musk, is that honesty. I'm a big honesty is the best policy kind of guy. That's just the kind of person I am. I prefer to be honest. I find that it suits me well in my personal life and in my professional life. And I just appreciate when someone is honest. And Elon Musk, to date, has been a very honest guy when it comes to well, everything, but when it comes to Tesla, he's been honest about stuff. You're going to hear him later talk about the hubris of Model X. So that'll come up. So now let's hear, he just drops this release date for Model Y. So I'll bet you want to hear it. So here it is.
Yeah, I do. I think we need to come out with the Model Y sometime in 2020 or aspirationally late 2019. And then I think that 1 million units is quite likely combined, yeah. Probably, maybe more.
So there you go. He says that the Y would need to drop in aspirationally late 2019 or 2020 in order to reach Tesla's stated goal of 1 million cars manufactured and sold per year. Now, I think I'd previously predicted 2020 for Model Y, I think. But it doesn't matter. Now it's official. Or at least we have something official to go on because Elon Musk is as official as it gets. Now, some of you may be trying to decide between the 3 and the Y. In fact, I've heard that I've gotten calls from some of you folks about that over the last number of months. So hopefully this timeline now that Elon has laid out will help you make your decision. I really, really hope so. And again, going back to my theme here of, I wish if I could ask these follow-up questions, I'd like to ask Elon if the Y is still planned to have Falcon Wing doors. This is a topic I've addressed on the podcast before. I am now in the camp of I don't think the Y is going to have Falcon Wings. Not with this huge focus on manufacturing efficiency. In fact, especially just this new information this week where the Y has so much less the wiring harness is so much shorter and it's going to be the step change of manufacturing. I don't think a car that is manufactured with that kind of autonomy and that kind of speed can or will have a complicated door setup. So, again, despite the fact that Elon had previously tweeted that the Y was going to have Falcon Wings, again, I think the Y went back to the drawing board after the 3 reveal when they rethought the whole production and manufacturing setup. So count me in the camp. Now, believe me, I want the Y to have Falcon Wings because I'm a former DeLorean owner. I love gull-wing doors. I think they're great. I wish I had an X, partly for that reason. But count me in the camp now. I don't think the Y is going to have Falcon Wings. But I will say, though, I might get a shot to try and get that question answered because of the upcoming factory tour with the Franz von Holzhausen Q&A that Michael from Millbrae is taking me along with him to from the referral program prize. And who better to ask a design question to, like Falcon Wing doors on the Model Y? Franz is the perfect guy to ask. So if I get a chance, I'm going to have a list of questions. I told you last week. So that question will be on my list. We'll see if I get to ask it. And if I do, we'll see if he answers it. I mean, I figure it's 50-50 because I don't know if Franz is very open and honest the way Elon is, or if he's a very buttoned up kind of on-message PR trained kind of guy. And I'm not saying that necessarily in a derogatory bad way. But, you know, some corporate people will never stray off message and they're gonna stick to their script. And I just haven't seen. We rarely see interviews with Franz, particularly live ones, like what Elon's doing on these calls, or at like the shareholders meetings. So, I have no idea how open to questions Franz is going to be, but I'm sure as heck looking forward to finding out. On this next clip, Elon talking about interior design and whether level 5 autonomy, whether self-driving will radically change interior design. Now, this is not, don't think of this, he's not talking about the Model 3 dashboard. This is a question about the actual thinking of how the interior of a car is if you're not going to be manually driving it yourself. So here's Elon speaking to that.
I don't think we're going to see a dramatic change in the interior design. There may be, an option where that you have club seating instead of everyone facing forward, but I wouldn't call that radical. Just turn the seats around.
Okay.
And I'm not sure how much people will actually want to do that. The sensor hardware and compute power required for at least level 4, if not level 5 autonomy has been in every Tesla produced since October last year, approximately. So it's a matter of upgrading the software, and we can achieve level 5. And if it does turn out that we need to upgrade the compute power, it's designed to be easy to upgrade. I can basically access it through the glove box and plug in a more powerful computer. So we don't think it will be, but if it is, that's pretty easy to do. So the important thing to appreciate is that the sensor hardware and wiring harness that's necessary for full autonomy, which essentially having the 8 cameras, the radar, and the ultrasonics, that's in place. So with each passing release, the car's autonomy level will improve. We had a bit of a dip, obviously, because of the unexpectedly rapid transition away from Mobileye, where we'd expected to have the Mobileye chip on the board as a transition, but Mobileye refused to allow that, so then we had to basically recreate all the Mobileye functionality in about 6 months, which we did.
So what I want to know about this is if the compute power is designed to be easy to upgrade, if it's accessible through the glove box, and it's good to go right now, but they might need more computing power, so they might need to upgrade it. Here's what I want to know. If a Tesla customer pays the full $8,000 today for full self-driving capability, is that customer going to get a free CPU upgrade if that processor ends up needing to be upgraded in order for level 5 autonomy functionality? As I should sure hope so, because that's what they're selling now on their website. This is the hardware you need for level 5. So should more computing power be required, I sure as heck hope that they're going to retrofit all of the existing cars. And I also wonder what that's going to mean for Model 3. Is Model 3 going to get the same CPU, that NVIDIA CPU that's in the cars now, the S's and X's now, or will they start loading a new one into the 3? Of course, the 3 isn't going to get anything that the S and X doesn't have, so are they going to upgrade all the cars, including the 3, this summer, or are we going to be looking at possible retrofits for the 3s? I don't know. That's going to be a very, very interesting thing to keep an eye on. But at least they thought ahead and made it easily upgradable. Here we go. One more Model Y comment. This is Elon being asked, will Model Y be built on the Model 3 platform or its own platform?
It will be, yeah. Different platform. I think
okay.
I think I give this example before. It's just one example, but the wiring harness on Model S is about 3 kilometers in length. The wiring harness on Model 3 is 1.5 kilometers in length. The wiring harness on Model Y will be 100 meters. And that's a redundant wiring harness. It's not really a wiring harness. It's basically a flex harness with a high data rate bus. So you can put everything on a higher data rate bus that isn't a CAN bus where your data rate is massively constrained. And we'll also make changes to the vestigial voltage but not everything's 12 volts, which is a pretty absurd number, really. It's wrong for everything.
All right, so there you go. Short and sweet. It will be, Model Y will get its own platform. It will not be based right off of the Model 3 platform. Thus, I would expect it to be a bit larger, probably a touch longer and a touch wider than the Model 3, which will probably bring the Y closer to S size. Of course, the X is bigger than the S. It's longer and wider than the S is, so that could very well be at least how it shakes out as far as the physical pecking order of the sexy S3XY Tesla lineup. This one is for, I pulled this clip because I imagine there may be some of you out there who maybe have a small bit of Tesla stock and maybe you're planning to fund your Model 3 purchase with it or fund some amount with it. Here's Elon on Tesla's market cap and their valuation and what the future may hold there.
Now, I want to preface this by, of course, this could be completely delusional, but I think I see a clear path to that outcome.
Okay, and anything else in terms of other businesses or volume, or still pretty much on that track?
The set of steps necessary to achieve that outcome seem pretty obvious, and heavily involve Tesla getting incredibly good at the machine that builds the machine, which involves, by the way, a tremendous amount of software. It's not just a bunch of robots that are sitting there. It's the programming of the robots and how they interact, and it's far more complex than the software in the car. I think this is just going to be a very difficult thing for other manufacturers to copy. I would not know what to do if I were in that position.
So yeah, if you do have some stock, some Tesla stock that maybe you are planning on selling to fund or help fund your Model 3 purchase, Elon Musk is really trying to make you think twice about doing that, suggesting that they have a clear path to Tesla being a $700 billion company as opposed to the $50 billion company they are now. So I guess everybody will make their own financial decision that works best for them, but that is food for thought right there for investors for sure. Here is Elon speaking on why Tesla is doing the Semitruck before the pickup truck, which is a very good question to ask him, and listen to his answer.
They're not going to be that widely separated in time. Part of it is we do want to show that electric transport can do even the most heavy duty things in the world. So I think it's pretty obvious we could do a pickup truck, but it's not obvious to a lot of people that you could do a heavy duty semi, and so just being able to kind of hit the corners of the box of capability, it's a helpful thing to do. Yeah.
Maybe a related point, but a disproportionate amount of petroleum is actually burned by a small number of trucks.
Yeah, exactly.
Just because of the high utilization, the high miles per vehicle, and they really lend themselves, I think, well to electrification.
Yeah, exactly. Every semi, there's probably 10 times as much hydrocarbon saved for a semi as for a pickup truck.
See, this is interesting. To me, it seems like Elon likes the challenge of doing the harder thing because he calls the pickup, quote, obvious. He says it's the obvious thing. So I think he just likes, he's such a brilliant guy. I think he likes the challenge. He said he wants to prove that electric can work in, heavy-duty applications. So there you go. That's why the next reveal isn't the pickup truck or the Model Y, but in fact, the Semitruck. Next clip here. This is clip 12. If you're keeping score at home, we're going to go up to clip 20. Here's Elon on what's left on the Model 3 to-do list and if we can expect any significant changes between now and production.
We're not really seeing any significant changes need to occur with Model 3. It's coming in as expected, as the designs and simulations predicted. It's pretty close to the bullseye. And I'm not aware of anything that would affect our prior statements about the volume target.
And so there's nothing outstanding, vis-a-vis tooling, deliveries, or things like that you're still viewing as a critical item with some uncertainty?
Well, there's plenty of things with uncertainty, but I don't know anything that would prevent us from starting production in July and exceeding 5,000 units a week by the end of the year.
Okay, great.
There may be something that crops up, but I just don't know of what that is today.
I know there's no new information in that clip, but the reason I wanted to play it is because it is yet more reassurance that everything is on track. And now I've said this a bunch of times over on many shows, but it's every time we get the official word that everything is still on track, more days have come off the calendar and we're closer and closer to production, which means the odds of things being on time go up and up and up, and your car and my car get closer and closer and closer to being a real thing in our garages. So it's just great to hear the reassurance and get that good sign, and here was yet another one. Elon was asked about the production workload that the Fremont factory, the Tesla factory in Fremont, can handle. And here he's talking about how the Model 3 fits in supply or manufacturing wise, and about the mistakes learned from the Model X.
But yeah, all of that production is intended to be out of the Giga Factory 1 and Fremont. So we believe that can all be handled here. But as far as specific constraints on Model 3, I just don't know of anything that really stands out. We've gone to great pains with the Model 3 to design it for manufacturing and to not have all sorts of bells and whistles and special features. That, like, for example, like with X became kind of like a technology bandwagon of every cool thing you could imagine all at once. It's like everything all at once. That is a terrible strategy. You really want to, start off simple and then add things over time. But that was, some hubris and real overconfident there. So with Model 3, it's the opposite. We've designed to be easy to make. We've got, I think, a much better supply chain in place, where we've got the A team from the A suppliers. We didn't have that for the Model X or the S. And as far as we know, there are no issues. So that strategy appears to be paying off, but there could be something that we've missed that we just don't know about right now.
So we've heard Elon own up to that before. So the question is, what does this mean for Model 3? And again, Tesla has straight up said expect fewer options. So I'm thinking fewer wheel options. The default wheels are probably the ones we've seen pictures of. Those are probably 18s, maybe 17s, but probably 18s. I'm guessing that's going to be the only wheel option for 18-inch. And I wonder if we are going to get more than one 20-inch wheel option, at least out of the gate, at least at launch, because you remember that Tesla showed 3 20-inch wheels, 3 varieties at the reveal event. Each of those 3 cars, the Rolling Mule and then the 2 working alpha prototypes, they each had a different 20-inch wheel. There was the turbine on the Rolling Red Mule. There was the sort of sportier turbine on the silver car, which does appear to be going into production. We've seen that on many of the release candidate cars. And then there was the Aero wheel that was on the matte black car. So I suspect we might not see that Aero wheel either ever or at least right at launch. So that's my guess on that. But at least for those of you out there who do have Model X's today, you learned from that Elon Musk story that you can rest assured, you can sleep well at night knowing that other than Hardware 1 versus Hardware 2, if you've got a Hardware 1X, your Model X will not be left in the dust by a future Model X anytime soon, at least from a tech perspective, tech-wise, because they packed in all the tech goodies out of the gate, which Elon Musk openly says he regrets because of the manufacturing difficulties it caused, obviously. Here, Elon sharing a very interesting note about the Tesla Semitruck. I promise this is the last semi thing, but listen to what the Semi is mostly made out of.
No, we manufacture that ourselves, and most of that Semi is actually made out of Model 3 parts, by the way. It's Model 3 is actually using a bunch of Model 3 motors. Revealing too much about the future of it, but so we're able to use a very high volume vehicle and then combine several motors to have something that I think is actually going to have a very good gross margin. Like that's just not something that other, it's like you can't do that with like a traditional truck. So effectively it allows us to have a very compelling product that has a low unit cost.
Yeah, the incremental complexity of building that is much less than it might seem.
Yeah, exactly.
Because of all the reuse that you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's interesting. It combines several Model 3 motors, which I tell you, that's super smart. Use the thing that you can produce in volume cheaply and just, link them together as an electric drivetrain allows. And there you go. You've got a very cost-effective semi-truck. Now, of course, batteries are still the thing that costs the most in an electric vehicle, especially, when you need so many batteries in a semi-truck. The thing's going to need a ton of them. But clearly, Elon is confident that it's still going to end up being a more attractive cost proposition to semi-truck buyers, to, corporate fleet semi-truck buyers. So September will be interesting to see what the heck that semi-truck can do. What's its... I mean, the big thing I want to know, since of course I won't be owning one or driving one, I'm just kind of curious, what's the range and how will it charge? Will they bring back the battery swap stations for the semi-trucks, or will they find some way to supercharge those things in a relatively short amount of time? That's going to be interesting to see. On this next clip, John McNeil, the service lead, and Elon Musk talk about whether or not used Model S's, pre-owned S's, are attracting new people to the brand.
I think it's still early days. There's still relatively low numbers, but the indication is that we're introducing a new customer to Tesla at those lower price points.
Yeah, exactly. The demand actually increases really exponentially as price drops. At one point when we looked at it, I think we were looking at the right numbers, but the demand at the appear to be somewhere between 30 and 70 times higher than at the Model S price point. Well, I mean, you look at, like, say, there's 100,000 premium sedans sold in the U.S. every year. I think we're about a third of that. But there are 17 million vehicles in total sold. So premium sedans are like nothing, less than 1% of the market. 0.5%.
So a 7 Series customer for your brand new and a 5 Series customer for your sort of used is maybe the right way to think about it. Is that fair?
Or a 3 Series customer for the used as well. Yeah.
Okay. Understood. Well, thank you so much for taking the questions.
Yep. Yeah, but it is interesting to consider the magnitude of this is really maybe underappreciated. Like just consider 17 million cars and trucks sold in the U.S. per year, of which only 100,000 are premium sedans. And we have a 1/3 market share. If we can replicate that in other segments, the results are obvious.
So Elon firing a warning shot across the bow. Not really. Not really. But what he is saying, he's saying, look what we've done in its tiny sliver corner of the market. Model 3 and Model Y are going to have 30 to 70 times the demand because of their lower price points. So he's saying that, hey, 3 and Y are coming to completely disrupt the whole ocean rather than just make some ripples on a lake. That's I think what he's saying right there, and I think that is always take careful note of. Never doubt Elon Musk, as I like to say. Here now is a clip. This is Elon asked if he's been asked this a bunch of times, and I play it every time because the answer reassures me every time. And this is Elon Musk talking about his commitment to staying at Tesla.
Well, I want to be super clear. I intend to be actively involved with Tesla for the rest of my life. Hopefully stopping before I get senile. Or too crazy. I don't know. But essentially, for as long as I can positively contribute to Tesla, I intend to have a significant involvement with Tesla. But that doesn't mean I should be CEO forever. It's like, I think my main, the most valuable thing I can contribute is kind of product design and technology. But that's my forte. It's what I like doing. So that's what I would imagine doing in the sort of very long term.
Again, he could say this a million times, and I will be comforted by it every single time. As long as Elon Musk is in charge, is the CEO of Tesla, I will be extraordinarily confident as both a customer and as a fan of what the company stands for and what they are actually making. I will almost certainly be a Tesla customer as long as Elon Musk is running the show and continues to be an open, honest, admirable guy. That's just me. Some people don't care about that stuff and they just want a good car, and there's nothing wrong with that. And that certainly matters to me too. I'm not made of money. I can't just say, well, sure, I'll take give me whatever, but give me the most expensive thing you got. But I just appreciate that stuff, and I'm glad to hear that Elon will be sticking around for the long foreseeable future. Now, this next clip here is a long one. It's about 7 minutes long. I want to warn you up front, but it's worth listening to the whole thing. So this is Elon talking about, he was asked about the $7,500 tax break. He was actually specifically asked, where are they now on the 200,000? Like, are they close to the 200,000 mark as far as cars sold in the United States? Because that's when the death watch begins for the full tax credit. It starts to, it'll stay good for a couple quarters, then it tapers and tapers before it goes away. So just listen to him, and he talks about the bolt in here. He again maintains that he does not think the bolt will be made in high volume, and he explains why. So this is a really long clip, but I think one very much worth listening to. So here's Elon Musk for 7 minutes.
I think most people are going to be able to get it that have put down a deposit. And it doesn't. Yeah, it sort of the credit rolls off. It's not like a complete cliff. It rolls off over time. And we are prioritizing U.S. production, which also helps us to keep things simple. So we're not making many versions of the car for many different countries. So I think provided somebody's, I don't know, my guess is probably most people down a deposit would be able to get the full tax credit.
Is there a way you could just give us what the cumulative numbers thus far in the U.S., quarter to date, inception to date?
No. Here's the problem. If we do that, then people run off and make all sorts of conclusions based on that that really have that are not predictive of the future. Because there are you can't test drive a Model 3. If you come into our stores and want to buy a Model 3, we invite you to buy a Model S or X instead. We anti-sell the Model 3. But our net reservations continues to climb week after week. No advertising, anti-selling, nothing to test drive. Store grows every week.
Got it. Thanks so much.
All right.
And maybe worthwhile clarifying that under the present regime, the federal income, the tax credits on the car continue even after we hit the 200,000 limit, and they continue for several quarters, but at a slightly lower depleting scale. So it's going to be beneficial for customers even beyond the 200,000 mark.
Yeah, absolutely. And I should perhaps touch again on this whole notion of it was all like over the years there's been all these sort of irritating articles like Tesla survives because of like government subsidies and tax credits driving crazy. Here's what those fools don't realize. If Tesla is not alone in the car industry, all those things would be material if we were the only car company in existence. We are not. There are many car companies. What matters is whether we have a relative advantage in the market. And in fact, the incentives give us a relative disadvantage. This is Tesla has succeeded in spite of the incentives, not because of them. But these incentives have limited lifetime and limited scale. Like for example, the federal tax credit, and then that caps out at the 200K. There's the CARB credits, which because the CARB rules are relatively weak. We can sell. There are some quarters where we can't even sell CARB credits, and when we can, it's maybe 50 cents on the dollar or something like that. Whereas the other car companies get to fully absorb the value of the CARB credit. So that, for example, gives GM roughly, I count it, a $7,000 to $10,000 advantage over Tesla for the Chevy Bolt. That's why, like, you see an article like why we're like, well, GM appears to be losing $10,000 a car on the Bolt. No, they're not. They're making it up in car credits. But they get the full retail value of the CARB credit, whereas we get the wholesale value when we're lucky. But the CARB credits are only effective at a production rate of about 20 to 30,000 vehicles a year. So that's why you'll see mark my words, it's not going to be any higher than that for the Chevy Bolt. That's 25, on the order of 25,000 units a year, or 1/10 of our initial production rate for the Model 3, or 1/20th of what Model 3 will be next year. So Tesla's competitive advantage improves as the incentives go away. This continues to be something that is not well understood. And for God's sake, I hope Julie doesn't mention that the Nevada tax credits, which for the Giga Factory, it makes it sound like we got a $1.3 billion check from the state of Nevada. We did not. Those tax credits are made up. The vast majority of it is just sales and use tax abatement on equipment in the Giga Factory. Taxes that otherwise wouldn't have been there because there was just a bunch of rocks there before. And you don't get a lot of taxes from rocks. So that's why it was essentially a no-lose proposition for the state. And in order for us to actually earn $1.3 billion in tax credits for the Giga Factory, we have to generate, over the course of 20 years, about $100 billion in output from the Giga Factory. So, it's worth about like 1%. And don't want to look a gift horse in the mouth, and we appreciate it, and that's nice. But this is obviously 1% is not the difference between success and failure of the factory. But a lot of articles write it in the past tense. Tesla received $1.3 billion. No, we haven't. We did not receive that. If somebody wants to send us that, great, we'll take it. But looking at the bank balance, don't see it there. That's because it's just sales and use tax abatement over 20 years. But the key takeaway is that Tesla's competitive advantage improves with scale. It doesn't get worse.
Well, sigh of relief for those of you not on the West Coast, of Elon saying that he feels pretty good about the chances of all of us existing reservation holders probably going to get a good shot at the full $7,500 tax credit. And I'll tell you, he's right about the tax credit thing, about them not giving it out, because it absolutely would get spun as FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt, by Tesla's competitors and Tesla's enemies. That would 100%, if they gave that figure out. I mean, you can, there are threads on TMC and other places that you can piece it together, but if he were to officially give it out, of course it would be used against them. So I don't blame him at all. And I'll tell you, I think it's nice to hear Elon blow off some steam and discuss the things that bother him. I really do. It's stuff, again, I mentioned this earlier, this stuff you don't hear from other executives, namely humanity. That it's like, hey, I'm upset about this, or I messed that up. It's I appreciate that from Elon, and again, that was a long clip. I hope you didn't mind. Hope that wasn't too long and annoying to listen to, but I thought the whole thing was worth checking out. All right, home stretch here. 3 more clips to go. Here's John McNeil, head of service, addressing the service needs for the fleet as the fleet grows and is due to grow very, very quickly here in the coming couple of years.
I think rather than thinking about store or service center locations, we think about it in terms of mobile units and lifts. And so we are building larger service centers over time that have more lifts. So our initial service centers, it might have had 2 or 3 lifts. And we're building now service centers with 40 to 60, sometimes 80 lifts. And so there's a density within the service centers, but the mobile capability expands that quite greatly. So I think a lot of people do incorrect analysis to take cars in service divided by locations because the locations vary so widely. But that's essentially how we're thinking about capacity and planning capacity. And as Deepak mentioned earlier, our throughputs and efficiency are getting much better over time, and we'll continue to improve those. So it's our goal to stay ahead of the installed base capacity, so we're providing great service. But really, the Model 3 has been designed for high reliability, and as Elon has said many times, the best service is no service at all.
Exactly. Our aspiration would be we make zero service revenue because the car never breaks.
Absolutely. That our service centers are sort of like the old Maytag repairman.
Right.
Yeah.
So here's to hoping that our Model 3s never break. But if they do, Tesla may be able to come to you, depending on where you live. If you're not close to a service facility, Tesla might be coming to you, and they might be able to diagnose and address your problem remotely too. So that's cool. So here's to the 3 being extraordinarily reliable. A little mini bombshell of sorts, another interesting news nugget right towards the end of the call too. Here's Elon saying that the Tesla minibus, you remember the thing that was going to be built off the Model X platform, that it may no longer be a thing that Tesla needs to make. Here's Elon talking about it.
Having given a bit more thought to it, I don't know if the bus thing, if that's actually going to be something that makes sense in a shared, fully autonomous environment. Because it may, if you have a shared, if it costs very little, like it costs less than a bus ticket to have make use of a shared autonomy fleet to go wherever you want, point to point. Well, why wouldn't you just use that? So I don't know if the bus thing, it does help with density to some degree. But then you could basically have something like a higher density Model X or something like that that's got say 10 or 12 seats in it. But would you want more than that? I don't know. And then when you factor tunnels in, big round tunnels, as you might guess, then the urban density in traffic, I think, can be fully alleviated with tunnels. It's fun. Like the tunnel thing. We talked a bit about that at TED, and interesting to see like the commentary afterwards was, in terms of the critics, or the critical commentary was, there's a group that thinks that the whole sort of automated tunnel with electric skate thing, or basically like the tunnel thing, there's a group that says it's obvious, and there's a group that says it's impossible. And I would like those two groups to meet. It's a bit like sort of like there's a group that is like the Flat Earth Society and the Hollow Globe Society. I think they should meet too. Have a debate.
So I just wonder if they ever even drew anything up for the minibus, or if it was purely at the idea stage and Elon just mentioned it, at one point. Or it was in part 2 of the secret master plan, but that doesn't necessarily mean that anyone else, that doesn't necessarily mean that Franz had a drawing of it, had a design of it in progress. It could have just come straight out of Elon's head and into that master plan for all we knew, but it does appear that the minibus will not be happening, and so that the current lineup looks like, of course, the S, the X, the 3, the Y, the Semitruck, the pickup truck, and then the next generation Roadster on its way at some point as well. So that appears to be that's everything we know that the company is building. The minibus seemingly no longer part of the plan. Finally, the last clip. It's very short, very sweet. This is like the opposite of the 7-minute clip I subjected you to a couple of minutes ago. But here's Elon he was just asked point blank, when will you actively stop anti-selling the Model 3? When will you actually start trying to sell Model 3 and get people to buy Model 3s?
Well, I don't know, maybe later this year. Probably not for the next 6 to 9 months.
So, despite that answer, I would not exactly expect a holiday season ad blitz from Tesla, because they'll still have plenty of a reservation backlog. And I also don't actually think they're talking about mainstream marketing here either, by the way. I think they're talking about the idea of people coming into the Tesla stores, and the fact that when people do that now, the Model 3 is not discussed, it's not pushed, that the Tesla employees are trying to get people to buy S's, because that's a car that they have now and can sell you now. So it seems that is what I think that's what Elon's referring to when he means 6 to 9 months. Like, that's when it'll be okay for Tesla store employees to start actively discussing Model 3 with customers. Of course, by that time, they'll be in the stores, they'll be outside the stores, there'll be customers rolling up in Model 3s. They'll be around by that point. Alrighty. That was a lot of Elon Musk this week, but I hope you enjoy the Elon Musk clip weeks. I sure do. It's a ton of work, these shows, because I got to listen to the whole thing, note the time codes, go back, pull the clip. It takes time, but I really think I know I like distilling all this information down because it makes it easier to digest and take in and discuss, and I enjoy these shows when it's a lot of clips. So I hope you do too. I'm going to be right back for you with a few parting thoughts, the usual stuff, plus a Maggie update for you right after this. I want to start by mentioning, if you are in the market for Tesla accessories for yourself, meaning your person, like a Tesla lanyard or something for your Tesla vehicle, such as the interior LED lighting kit, you can go to abstractocean.com, shop what they've got, and use the coupon code RTLPodcast at checkout. That's all one word, RTL Podcast at checkout, to get 20% off of your order. If you enjoy the show, you want to support my efforts here, I would sincerely appreciate if you would take a look at my Patreon page. If that's something that you might consider doing, take a look at it. It's patreon.com. That's patreon.com/Tesla podcast. You can follow me on Twitter at DMC_Ryan. You can email me, teslapodcast@gmail.com. If you are buying a Tesla, get yourself $1,000 off of your vehicle by using the referral code Jeff2311. So the easiest way to do that is to put this short link into your web browser. Just type in ts.la/Jeff, spelled Jeff, Jeff2311. So ts.la/Jeff2311. That's going to take you to a design studio where you can configure your SRX, and it's going to implement that $1,000 discount. Dave T does a wonderful weekly Tesla newsletter every Friday. I encourage you to sign up for that at teslaweekly.com. And I want to thank the Patreon producers. This is the wonderful group of people who support my podcasting efforts at the $20 or higher level each month. They are Jeff Bartram, Paul Hussey, DJ Harbaugh, Pete White, Wolfgang Obergen, George Cassiopo, ZL Klein, David Brander, Jonathan Wales, John Waltauer, Scott Gillis, Michael Lucas, Alexi Heft, David Kittle, Lisa Kaz, Michael O'Prey, Logan Willis, Matthew Parra, Michael Lester, John E. Ford, Robert Miracle, Kyle Stover, Vince Vaughn, Colby Perry, and John Lasher. Thank you all so much for your continued support. It really does mean the world to me. Now, I wanted to finish. By the way, yeah, and do subscribe to the show so that you're not just manually downloading it every week. It just makes things easier. Subscribe on iTunes, on Google Play Music, Stitcher, TuneIn, or the RSS feed is at the hosting site, which is teslapodcast.libsyn.com, spelled Libsyn. By the way, and you can get it in your Tesla too, via TuneIn. So this podcast is available in your Tesla vehicle. So Maggie, let's see if I can hold it together here. This is Maggie's last show. It's been on my mind for a little while, and she really can't get around. Her degenerative neurological condition in her right rear hind leg is such that she can barely walk. She absolutely can't run. She can really not even go out on walks anymore because she basically just drags the foot. Even with, you should see the pictures. I have all this gear for her. You know, I've talked to you a lot about, mentioned a number of times, we do the physical therapy, the rehab, with the underwater treadmill to try and keep the strength up, and these special boots that have they're booties, but they have this elastic. Well, it's like a band that goes up and wraps around the Achilles tendon, which is to help her pick up her feet when she walks rather than drag the feet. But she just drags and just the shoes we've trashed multiple pairs of shoes now. And then the other sort of big kind of thing that started to really tell me that it was time. There have been a number of incontinence episodes of both the number 1 and number 2 variety indoors. And, you know, it really just, I started to think, you know, what kind of quality of life is she having? And you know, not to make it about me, because it's about her, but you know, it's been stressing me out a lot. I've had I've actually spent a lot of time at the doctor's office in the last 2-3 months. Part of that has been I've been stricken with unbelievable reactions to allergies this season, and I see an allergy. I get treatment, but I've still been just wrecked. But my doctor agrees that I've got a lot of stress, and a lot of that's Maggie, and I don't blame her for that. That's not her fault. But, you know, it's just like, if she can't go out for walks. She can barely get around. She can't get up. I live in a place where there's stairs, a lot of stairs, out the front door and out the back door to go down to relieve herself. She can't get down those stairs by herself. She can't get up those stairs at all. And I just, you know, it was just at the point, you know, she's past 10 and a half. She's 10 and, I mean, her birthday's in August. So, you know, a little, 10 and a half basically. And boxers, from, you know, everything I'd read, you know, it's, you know, the 10 to 12 range. Some people might get a little more, but most boxer owners I've met over the years, 10 to 12 does seem to be the range. And both of Maggie's litter mates, because I've kept in touch, just like a yearly check-in with her breeder, the place I got, the woman I got her from, the certified breeders. There were 2 other dogs in the litter that survived. There was actually a litter of 5. 2 of them passed away right away, right at birth, and there were 3 really that made it in the litter, and all girls. And one was I think 8 or 9, and then the other one was 7. Had a heart condition even worse than Maggie's. And that's the thing. I'll tell you, Maggie's heart condition, unbelievably well controlled. If you live in the Bay Area, you live in the city, if you live in San Francisco or near San Francisco, and your dog has a heart problem, please drop me a line and I will give you the name of our veterinary cardiologist, because the guy did amazing work, kept her last cardiology checkup was in February, and he said, we did the full battery, and he said, if this were a normal dog, with a dog with a normal heart, meaning, I would think this looks great for a normal dog, let alone one with a heart condition, boxer cardiomyopathy. But it just got to the point where, it's just between the lack of mobility, when you can't run, that's one thing. But then when we can't even go out for walks, and she can't get up or down stairs, and she slips. She's fallen over a lot when she squats to try and go to the bathroom, because she just, there's the neurology back there is just all out of whack. When she walks, it's like the back end just flops around. I mean, if she's not on carpet, I have hardwood floors, and I put the carpet runners down everywhere, because otherwise she just has no grip whatsoever, and she just slips and falls over. So it just got to the point where I really had to be honest with myself and say, I don't think this is good for her or for me, which it's so hard. I've never been through this before. Maggie is my first dog. I had the family dog, but as far as like my dog, this is my dog. Maggie's my first dog, and it's tough because I look in her eyes, and you look in her eye, and the spirit's all there. Like, boy, you look in her eyes, and it's all there, but the body is just not willing. And so I made a consultation. I had an appointment today, in fact, as I record, with her longtime veterinarian, and told her everything, gave her the whole story. I'd actually emailed her and then went in for the face-to-face, and she agreed. Yeah, she thinks it's time as well, based on all that information, and even lately, there's been, I don't want to gross everybody out, but Maggie's had some, let's just say some just bowel issues. So just why? I went to a bland diet. It seemed like it was getting better. Went back to a regular food. Boom, right back to the bowel problem. So that's just only telling me that, okay, yeah, I guess maybe it really is time. And so it is with extreme, just unbelievable sadness that a lot of soul searching, and searching my own heart, and talking to my wife, and talking to her longtime vet, that made the decision to put Maggie to sleep. And it's Friday night as I record this, and her last day will be on Monday. We're gonna have one more weekend together where I just want to be with her. I want to take her to the beach. She loved the beach. She can't run around, but I figure even when we would in her younger days go to the beach, I'd roll down the window when we got close, and I could see on her face she knew we were getting close, because she could smell the salt in the air. So I want to give her that. I want to give her that one more time. And I figure I'm going to take her to my old neighborhood, the town. I used to live in another town here on the peninsula before I moved to San Francisco. When I first got Maggie, it was the first 4 or 5 years of her life I lived in down on the peninsula. I think we're going to go. And I lived right on the bay, and I would walk her. Actually, Maggie had so much energy for most of her life that I had to run her, but I would get on my bike. And she would run while I biked. And she still wouldn't get tired. But it's a bay trail. It runs right along the water, and it's beautiful, and it's great. And so I think maybe we'll we'll go there, and again, because we can't really walk and we certainly can't run, that maybe we'll just find a spot and sit down together and spend some time. And then I tried to be a good dog owner, and I always gave her really good, high quality food and didn't feed her from the table. And I know, there's certainly, you can do that in a very, very healthy, good way. But she got like premium kibble. So I thought I thought I'd get her an In-N-Out cheeseburger for her last meal, because she never got that. She never got to experience that, but she smelled it. I love In-N-Out. She's smelled In-N-Out a million times and never gotten to eat one. So I thought maybe you can just get it. You can just get it protein style, which is no bun, just wrapped in lettuce. So I figure, well, she doesn't need the bun. I'll just get her a double plain protein style, just two burger patties and 2 slices of American cheese, and I'll give that to her. And then I'll just be with her. And they walk me through how it's going to be, and I won't talk about that. That's to just, they set the vet, she set my expectations of what's going to happen, and it's going to be totally peaceful for her, and I'm going to be talking to her, and I'm going to be the last thing she hears and the last thing she sees, because it's always been us. That dog was with me for the hardest time of my life, which was when my first wife left me. I was married I was married young, and she cheated and left, and that's a long story that nobody cares about here on this show, but the point is, it was just me and Maggie for a long, long time, and that dog kept my head above water, emotionally speaking, in a dark time for me, and I can never repay her for that. And she's such a bright light, and we've done, the best thing to come out of that divorce for me was that it inspired me to do something, and that something, I got to a point where I said, I have to do something. I have to do something with my life here. And I'd seen an article in a local paper about pet-assisted therapy. And even though Maggie wasn't even 2 at the time, I thought, man, no way, she's still a puppy. She's not going to be calm enough for this. We went through all the classes and the certification, and we passed, and we did it. And Maggie the boxer, I'm saying I'm so proud of her. She was a therapy dog for 8 years. 8 years. First at an adult assisted living facility where we would visit with the residents there, and then we pretty much started working exclusively with kids, because my God, kids, they really love Maggie, and Maggie adores children. If you don't know, boxers sort of inherently are great with kids. It's just I'm not saying 100% of every boxer, but it's it's a generally known trait of the breed, and Maggie certainly fits that. And so we started going to libraries, and then we were assigned to a school that were everybody. And what was cool about that school was we were going there for like 4 or 5 years, so that it got to a point where the 3rd, 4th, 5th year, everybody at school knew her. All the teachers, the kids, they would move from one grade to the next, so we'd be walking down the halls and be like, hey, Maggie. So, Maggie, I'm so glad that I could share her with the world that way. And I encourage anyone, if you have a dog who loves people and just has that great demeanor, and you can carve out a little bit of time to go through the certification, the training and the certification, and then, even if you're volunteering once a month, it's a great thing through your SPCA that you can do with your dog that just it makes you feel good. Your dog loves it. I mean, Maggie loves nothing. When the kids at the school, because it was a one-on-one reading program, called Puppy Dog Tales, or Paws for Tales, were the sort of... But so it was a one-on-one thing. The parents would sign their kids up for it, and we would read with the same group of kids every semester one-on-one. But there would be times between kids where we would stop in the certain classrooms with kindergarten, first grade or second grade room at the invitation of the teachers, and the kids would mob Maggie, and she loved it. She loved it. She would dance around and hop around and lick all their faces, and they'd all be like, "Oh my gosh!" And it was the best thing. And I'm so proud of Maggie for doing that and being such a positive light, and everything she did for me for our 10.5 years together. So, I don't know, maybe I'll have more to say tacked on to the end of next week's show after it's done, after she's gone, but she has meant the absolute world to me. I know, everybody's dog is special to them in a certain way. And Maggie, again, because of that divorce and what I went through and what Maggie helped me through. And even, of course, well after that. I mean, Maggie has always been by my side. I've fallen asleep on the couch, cuddled up with that dog so many times I can't even count. And I'm just so grateful to her for her companionship. I'm so thankful. I'm so thankful. Maggie, I love you, Maggie. You're the best dog I could have ever asked for. So, I guess if you want to hear my whole really super personal story about Maggie, I know this is a Tesla podcast, but this is the end, as you can tell, of this episode. Not of the whole thing. I'll be back next week. Don't worry. But if you don't care, you've pressed stop by now. By the way, this is the end. If you don't care, please press stop. But if you want to hear the entire Maggie story, my friend Jared Petty, who was a colleague of mine at IGN until very recently when he took a job elsewhere, he has a podcast called Pockets Full of Soup, where it's just him interviewing someone in his life, friends, family, about someone they're thankful for. And I brought Maggie on just a few months ago, actually, and I told the entire Maggie story about the divorce, about where when I first met Maggie and I first saw her picture on the internet. And so if you're curious, just go on YouTube and look for Pockets Full of Soup, and it's under my name. So if you could probably just type in Pockets Full of Soup and you'll find the Ryan McCaffrey episode, but I guess you could also type in Pockets Full of Soup Ryan or Ryan McCaffrey. I don't know. You'll find it. You're all very intelligent people. But that's where I tell the entire Maggie the Boxer origin story, at least, and up to January or February or whenever I recorded that with Jared. But anyway, that's it for this week. I will be back next week. Thank you all so much for continuing to talk Tesla with me, to hang out. We've still got a great Tesla year ahead of us with Model 3. There's a lot of fun to be had, and I'm going to be here for you, and I hope you'll stick with me. And Maggie she'll always be, that dog will always be with me in spirit. I will never forget her. She was my co-host. She's the only co-host I could ever have on this podcast. So, happy electric motoring. Maggie, I hope up in heaven there's a Tesla that you can ride in and with the window down and your head hanging out of it and feel the wind as you cruise towards the beach. All right, folks. I'll see you next week.